Hi, I'm Linda, and this is No Frills ASMR. I wanted to come touch base about Love is Blind Season 8. I am late to the party on this one, I know. I think this came out way back in February, maybe. But I have only started watching it this month. And I am at the episode that precedes the weddings. So I do not know who ended up together. And I will wait to post this video until I'm moments away from watching it, so that if you want to comment about anything, hopefully I won't see it. I hope it's just one episode for the weddings and not two. I'll have to check that first. But yeah, so I haven't gotten to the weddings. So I thought, just for fun, because during times, when there's so much going on in the world, it's really important to watch really important television like reality TV. Love is Blind. Anyway, this is a kind of fun show. It's I would not say season 8's the best season, but they go into these, I've talked about it once before. They go into these rooms called pods. So there are doors here and doors here, and then a glowing wall. And these are the rooms. And the women will be in this room, and the men are in this room, and they cannot see each other through the wall, but they can hear each other. So they sit there and talk for, I think it's 10 days, something like that. And then if they find what they all call their person, and they call it an experiment, and production must say you cannot call it a show or whatever. It's an experiment. So if they find their person during the experiment, then they get engaged. And then they go out first they go to some tropical locale and they have sexy, beachy, fun time. And then they go back to their home city, which in season 8 is Minneapolis. So they go back to the cold. And they put them up in a shared apartment in their home place. And they go back to work and all that kind of thing, and see their friends and family and get their phones back, which a lot of times is a problem. And then if after, I think, a month, if they go up, they have a wedding. And so they go to the wedding and they show up at the altar, and then they say, do you take this person? Is love really blind? And they have to say, I do or I don't, basically, for the wedding. It's kind of fun. I know it sounds like, oh, please, like you'd never meet somebody. But the truth is, by the time you've talked to somebody, and apparently sometimes the conversations go on for like 6 hours. Like they can be really long talks. We're seeing little snippets. And then they're in the real world. I don't know. I think it could work. I'm not totally against it. But I do think a lot of people started going on, for social media clicks or whatever. All right, so let's talk about who we have this time. And I think I'm going to try to guess whether or not they will get married. So we have, of the women, we have Taylor, Virginia, Monica. It's funny because Monica ends up with Joey. I'm like, okay, friends. Sarah. Lauren. Well, we'll go ahead and say Madison or Mads. Molly, and Meg. Okay, so these are kind of our main character women. And the main character men are Daniel, Devin. Oh, a lot of D names. David, or Dave, I think he goes by. Joey. Ben. And then Mason and Adam. I think those are all our main characters, right? I think so. All right, so let's figure this out. Hold on. We'll put them together. So the reason I kind of said some of these, I was like, we'll add them because they didn't. Some of these people didn't actually make it out of the pods. In other words, they didn't get engaged before they left the pods. But I think the show was a little low on drama this season. So they kind of included them in the edit and also brought them back for the they do this where they all get together. And maybe they always do this, but I feel like usually it's only the people who've dated each other, but maybe they always bring the whole cast. I don't remember. But some of these people came back. I was like, what are they doing here? But you're glad to have them because you want to know what's up. All right. So we'll start with kind of probably the most boring. Not boring. Actually, I could do the most boring. These two aren't the most boring, but actually, let's start with who I would consider the most boring. And I hate to say this because they're really nice. They seem like lovely people, both of them. And that is, can you guess who I'm going to say? Virginia and Devin. Now, he is a youth basketball coach. And I actually can't remember what Virginia does for a living. But they're both very calm, no fighting, no bickering, very, very nice people. But oh my God, it's like watching paint dry. There's no, this is reality TV. We need a little drama, a little something. And they talk slower than I do doing Virginia, a lot of times, I don't want to accuse anyone of anything, but a lot of times her eyes are kind of half closed. And it makes me wonder if she's on some kind of calming medication of some sort. They're just so chill. I have some dark pretzels here. Hopefully that won't bug you. I was like, dude, I want to have a little snacky. Because I filmed 4 videos. I've been doing beauty videos today, which is ridiculous. I am not the one who should do that. But anyway, they seem really nice. But they're just so boring. So the big drama, I guess, is hold on. All right. Is that Virginia says she wants a prenuptial agreement. And at first, Devin's like, sure, I understand. I mean, I'll have to think on it, but I understand. Well, these aren't when my husband and I got married, we were in our 20s. We had no money. Neither one of us had 2 dimes to rub together. So we didn't require a prenup at that point. We just went for it, got married. Now, if I were to get married today, when you have money you've saved and worked towards and put away, I'm sure Virginia seems to have a lot of money that she has saved. She says she is on her way to working. Her goal is to get $1 million. And she said, I'm well on my way. Well, you might not want to marry in a like kind of shotgun wedding and not have a prenup. So I totally understand why she feels that way. And he's, of course, doing the thing like, well, if you plan to stay married, why would you need such a thing? But that's like saying you don't need insurance on your house or your car because I don't plan to get in a car accident. Like, well, no one does. It's insurance. It's plan for the worst, hope for the best. It's words to live by. So anyway, I think they will. The episode ended last night with her showing him the prenup, and he is kind of being pretty serious about it. And he says, "I'm going to have my lawyer look this over," which I also understand because not that you need a lawyer, but I would read it carefully because how do we know she's not a scammer and she's put in there something like I get alimony for 20 years, if we divorce. So yeah, I'd read that thing carefully before I'd sign it. All right, so we'll go back to them on whether or not I think they'll get married. The next couple, and the one I was going to say is boring, but they're not boring. They're just nice. Is Taylor and Daniel. They're a little boring too, honestly. All these, I tell you, most of these couples aren't. I think it's because there's no drama. They just seem to like each other. So it's a little like, yeah, okay. You get along great. Not fun for me. But these two are the two who both love Christmas. And in the pod, Daniel, and this is how I recollect it happening. He tells a story about how every year I make a Christmas card and I always hold this one stocking, but I forget what his whole story was, but so it gets more and more outrageous or something each year. And Taylor's like, what? I do the exact same thing. Oh my gosh, we're like meant to be. And then he brought up, I forget what, something else that she was like, oh, I know. This is a dumb one. But it was like, what's your favorite fast food? And I don't even remember this, but I guess he said Taco Bell. And she's like, what? My favorite fast food's Taco Bell. Well, guess what? So is anybody who, has gone out for a night of party and wants a bean burrito. Anyway, but so they're like, oh my God, we're meant to be. Ding, ding. Well, then the minute they get out of the pods and she gets her, well, she must not have gotten her phone back. No, she hadn't gotten her phone back. She just went back to her room and was like, I know I've seen his face before. It was after the reveal. So they've seen each other once. And she was kind of weird during the reveal. I was like, he's really into her, but she seems a little. So she said she just felt like she'd seen him before and she couldn't put it together. Now remember, these people all live in Minneapolis, so it's all together, and they're the same age, basically. Any of these people could know each other, run into each other. But she goes back to her room and says to herself, Taylor, I've seen this guy before. And she remembers that his face, a person with his face, had asked her to be a friend on Instagram and then taken the friend request away. Which, how would you know that? I don't even know how that works. But she said he could have seen, in the public part, her stories, I think. And in her story, she puts that she loves Christmas and makes Christmas cards every year and all this, and something about Taco Bell being her favorite food. So she felt like he went into the pods knowing, oh, and also they have mutual friends. And I guess her friends knew she was going on Love is Blind. So she felt like he knew she was going to be in there. And he knew what she looked like and knew some stuff about her and may have used it to get her to fall in love with him. So that was the biggest drama of their relationship. So before they go to, where were they, you guys? um, I forget where they went to a tropical place. I forget where they went. She was told him all of this. She was very clear with him, which I thought was cool. And he's like, no, if I did do that, I don't remember. It's all the other possible because maybe like I knew you were friends with friends and I just thought you were, but he's like, I swear I didn't do what you think I did. And she said, I have an app that shows who's tried to follow and unfollow me or something. I don't even know. And he kind of was like, oh. And then he's like, well, if I did do that, I mean, it could have. And then he's kind of backtracking. So he knows he probably did. But the production crew goes and gets her phone and lets her look at it because they weren't allowed to. And she's trying to go through the app. And I don't know who this girl is. Like, what is she posting? That she has like 20-something thousand followers. And so she's going and going and going. And she's like, there's a lot of followers. And they kind of giggle, which I thought was really funny. Because, you know, if you still can see the humor and things, you're probably going to be all right. And then she's trying, I forget what, she wanted production for something. And she's like, hello, production? You know, whatever, hello. And then at the same moment, they both go, Bueller. They go, Bueller. That was pretty cute. So anyway, they ended up going on to the tropical place and they seemed pretty good. And they were taking Christmas card pictures last night. So, all right, so that's them. And then there's the ones that are kind of like friends, Monica and Joey. Interestingly, I like them as a couple. They seem cute. I don't feel like I know all that much about either one of them. And like he has this sort of surfer vibe. He likes to do like the hang 10, like, mahalo. And I don't know why. He hasn't really said if he's like Hawaiian. I don't know. And he wears, Hawaiian shirts. And he seems perfectly nice and funny. He has a very Minnesota / also sounds like Michigan too, voice and accent. And a lot of people from, including I used to, from that area, there's something about the accent that puts you into a very nasal voice. And he has it. He has that very nasal. It's like way up here. It's like a nasal voice. I can't even do it right now. That sounded almost country. It's more like my voice is kind of nasally. I don't know. I can't do it. Forget it. Never mind. But then Monica, she seems great. She seems nice. But again, I couldn't tell you squat about either of them. I don't know. They seem lovely. Does anybody have thoughts on them? I don't know. I mean, she went to her family's house and they all seemed fine, except her sister was being a real piece of work, saying how much she didn't trust Joey and this and that. But I think she had been drinking and she was just being weird because they met with her later and she was like, oh, never mind. So, yeah, they might be the couple I feel like I know the least about, if I think maybe. And then there's Sarah. She's with Ben. I think Sarah is stunning. I think she's so pretty. I think it's because her eyes are really big. She also reminds me a lot in the way her speech and the way she looks and everything of my niece. So I like her for that, I think. Excuse me, I just swallowed so hard. And then Ben seems just like a really nice guy. The only real drama, well, they had like two things that I guess you could consider dramatic. And one is Ben's religious. Ben goes to church. I don't really know how religious he is, but he goes to church. And Sarah, like these two are really religious. I haven't gotten that feeling out of Ben as much, and Virginia definitely. Sarah in the pods kind of asked Ben a few questions about whether he'd be accepting, which is an interesting word, of, gay people, because her sister is a lesbian. And he said, I forget, what did he say? He said something that wasn't perfect. And I don't remember exactly what. And Sarah was like, I don't know if that was the right answer. So she had a real thought about that, you know what I mean? But then the next day, he immediately came in and was like, I was up all night worrying about it because I just didn't mean what I said wasn't how I really feel, and blah, blah, blah. So they worked that out. And then later they go meet up with her sister, and her sister's, I don't know if they're married or if it's a partner or what, but, and the sister was not very welcoming of the relationship with Ben. And she even said, it's not about him, it's about you rushing into this. I'm so protective. But she was really, her and her girlfriend were both like jerks about it, I thought. I'm like, okay, ladies, chill out. So that was an issue for her. But the other thing with Ben is there's a moment where they're having fun, they're having a nice conversation, and then Sarah's scrolling through her phone, and apparently somebody had sent her a text with this TikTok video, and Sarah's reaction was like, oh no. And it was Ben claims it had been 4 years since he dated her, but some old girlfriend of Ben, maybe not even girlfriend, somebody he dated, and she's crying in the TikTok video and going, I hate that Love is Blind. It's taking so many dirtbag men and making them famous, or whatever the heck. And that was a little dramatic, but a little drama between them. But they ended up kind of talking it out. And even if there's more to that story, even if like he kept meeting up with that girl for years, I don't know that affects your relationship together, because he didn't marry that girl. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. People have histories. You can't, like, everybody's got histories, like, whatever. Anyway, so they seem to be fine now. Who else do we have? Are we down to yeah, we might be. All right, Lauren and Dave. I think they're the only other couple that made it out of the pods. These are all the ones who made it out of the pods. Lauren and Dave, oh God, I can't stand Dave. I can't stand him. I just, from day one, I was like, oh no. Now, I have not read anything. I don't know if there's more to the story. And if I say something that's offensive, please forgive me, because I might. But Dave walks into the pod, and the first thing he says to some of the women is, so what's wrong with you? Like, that you're here at Love is Blind. First of all, rude. And I know it's like supposed to be funny, but is that really, like, what's wrong? I would be like, what's wrong with you? Also, bye-bye. No, I don't know. Actually, I might think it's funny. I don't know. But it's just because it's him. But then he talks about, and he tells some of the women this, that he's a medical supply, tool, instrument, something like that, salesman, I don't know. And he talks about how he works at plastic surgery places, so he sees all these perfect women with perfect bodies and perfect faces, and that he's too long been, only going for girls for their hot looks, and he needs to change, and that's why Love is Blind is going to work for him. I call BS on all that. BS. So then Dave is dealing in the pods. He's kind of dating Lauren and Molly. And I don't even know what to say about all these relationships. The whole time I'm like, why are either of these girls into this guy? The whole time in the pods, I'm like, dude, you're boring the crap out of me. Like, you are not, I don't know why they're interested. This guy rubbed me all wrong the whole time. But anyway, they kind of they didn't like drama fight or anything about it, but they were both in the running for the same guy. Well, then he dumps Molly, and Molly comes in and kind of tells Lauren, look, I don't know about that guy. He was kind of, I forget what happened. But she talks to Lauren, and Lauren's really nice to Molly, and they're both nice to each other. So now Molly is out of the picture. So then Lauren and Dave leave the pods. They go to the tropical place where they were just... For me, there was no chemistry between the two of them. I was still like, why? Lauren, why? Why? But then when they get back to, society, he gets his phone back, and so does she. And there are all these texts from his sister and his friends where they're all saying that Lauren was, having sex with a guy or something in the weeks before, or had a boyfriend and just ghosted him and never broke up with him before going on the show. And the story kept kind of changing, I have to be honest. So we're only hearing Dave's side of that. But good Lord, did we hear it. I mean, I just think production must have had nothing to go with this couple, because we had to listen to him go on about this story so many times again and again. I'm like, fast forward, I can't. And Lauren kept saying, well, that's not exactly true. And she did even say, we were friends with benefits, but neither one of us thought we were in a relationship. And I hadn't seen him for a week before I went off to production. And he's like, well, how could you do that? How could I marry a girl? Blah, blah, blah. Which is fine. That's your priority, Dave. But then just get out of the relationship. Why are you stringing her along and keep trying to make her feel guilty for just being her? Like, what else can she do? She's apologized. She wrote his sister a letter because he's so worried about his sister's point of view on this thing. Like, what? Who is what? What is going on? And then it comes out that Dave, and this was my guess before, I had said, I think this guy's, this is bad. I go, I think he's either a virgin or he's gay. And it comes out that he's a virgin, maybe, that he's been celibate his whole life. And maybe that's why he's so offended that Lauren had sex not that far before the thing. Okay, fair, but quit hounding her and go away. Like, just cut off the relationship. Like, why are you... But then one night, he hadn't stayed in the apartment that they share in Minneapolis like the whole week. And this one night, his friends were supposed to come over, but he's like, basically tells this sweet little gal, Lauren, who's a teacher, and she's very sweet. He's like, I don't even want my friends to come over and meet you, basically because you're such a SLU. You're such a... because you were sleeping around, and I don't trust you, so I don't even want them to meet you because they'll be too hard on you. And she's like, I can handle it. I will tell them the truth, that's all there is to it. And he's kind of like, no, I don't even want them to take the time to meet, or something. It was like cray. I don't know what. So they decide, okay, we'll cancel on them coming over. But instead of staying home and discussing what's going to happen with Lauren, he goes out to the bar with his friends. And the next day, Lauren says, what bar were you at? And he says, Nolo or something. And then that's the end of that. They go on. And then she goes, were you at any other bar? Because she knows something. And he says, well, I heard that a bunch of the cast members are going to be at this other bar. So I did go over there. And she says, oh, who was there? And he says, Molly was there. But she was downstairs, and I never went down there. We later hear from Molly. Molly concurs that she never saw him, but said she heard from other cast that some girl was all over him at the bar. And he didn't tell Lauren that. It's like, who are you, Dave? Kiss off. Anyway, so then they have like a group meetup, and Dave is talking to Molly and kind of trying to like badmouth Lauren. And I loved it because Molly's like, yeah, no, like she didn't do anything wrong. you're just being a jerk and you need to look at your own self a little bit more. And I'll always have Lauren's back. I'm not into this. And I was like, yes, Molly, yes. So we love Molly. But so then Dave gets drunk. He's completely drunk and slurring his words. And he's like, Lauren, I'm so sorry. He's trying to clean up his image before this Love is Blind comes out. But for me, this guy's Mud. His name is Mud. Anyway, so then they also invite Madison, who's like this beautiful blonde in the pods. But at the party, she's dyed her hair hot pink. And, she's like a very pretty person. And then Adam, Mason, and Meg. Now, both Meg and Madison were dating Mason. And Mason thought he was in love with Meg and was like, you're my girlfriend. But then Madison, he had a date with her that night, and she started with Mason, not with Adam, but with Mason, would really pile on the sexual innuendo. And, he's just a guy. He's just a 20-something-year-old guy. You can't expect. So he's like, and then he's like, maybe you're my number one. And then Madison runs back and says to Meg, he told me I'm his number one. And so then he thinks about it, and he's like, no, Meg's my number one. So he goes back to Madison, and he says, Madison, you're not my number one. And he boots her off. And she says to Meg, he's a jerk. Don't trust this guy. And so then he goes back to Meg, and he's like, I'm sorry I told Madison that. I want to be with you. And Meg's like, I think I know what a jerk you are. I'm out. And so then he lost everybody. It was so sad. Now, meanwhile, I know Madison broke it off with Mason because she decided she liked Adam. So Madison has broken it off with Mason and gone to Adam and was like, Adam, you're my number one. And do you think we can get married? And Adam's kind of like, I think maybe you're high maintenance and you might try to start drama and fights. So I don't think I can actually marry you. And then she's like, I hate everybody. I'm going to burn this house down. So then apparently they ran into each other at the airport, Adam and Madison. And he saw how hot she was. And he was like, Madison, I really like you after all. So I don't know. There's a whole story there that I don't really know about. But Meg and Mason, after they got off the show and saw each other on Insta, were like, oh, we're hot for each other. So they're kind of a couple, apparently, dating. And these two are not. All right. And then Lauren, I don't know. Okay. So here are our couples. Okay. So will Virginia and Devin say yes? My biggest concern for them isn't the prenuptial agreement. My biggest concern is that Virginia seems to be, from a very short conversation and her bracelet, I'm basing this. So I wish we had a little more to go on, but she brought up to him about politics, which really I would bring up in the pods. I'd have to know all that. And she said, what are your feelings about politics? And he basically says, I'm neither here nor there. I don't really care about politics, which to me is like, for me, that would be a red flag. I'd be like, really? You don't care at all? You don't have any opinion? Okay. And I think he may have said he didn't vote in the last election. Well, Virginia's wearing a bracelet. I forget, what did it say, you guys? Did it say lib? I think it said lib. And she's very pro-life, and I get the feeling she's active in politics. So, and then she says to him, after I think he said, I didn't vote, but my whole family always votes Republican. And she made a comment because he has a black dad and a white mom. And she made a comment and said, well, black people generally vote Democrat. And kind of like, but you're mostly white. And he goes, my dad's black. Now, that seems like it could have been a more exciting scene, but they're so chill. They're so chill that there wasn't even tension when they had this conversation. But I'm like, okay. Tell me more. So even though 90% of me thinks they will probably get married, if that politics thing, that could be a no-go for her. That could be, because I think she's very passionate about that, and we didn't see it enough. I just feel like production needed to go, let's talk about that a little bit more. So, but they do seem very compatible. But she also likes very much like touchy-feely, and he says he's not into PDA, public displays of affection. So, what will they do? Oh gosh. I am really 50-50 on them. And then how will that prenup play out? All right, I think they probably will get married. All right, Taylor and Daniel, they're the Christmas. Now, I kept waiting for something to happen where Taylor ends up finding out Daniel's never made a Christmas card and that he was playing her the whole time. And I kind of thought, even if that happened, she might forgive him, because what's the worst case on that? That he thought you're like good looking and he wanted to get you so bad that he kind of tweaked his stuff. I mean, I know it's not the experiment, but it wouldn't be like the worst thing in the world to know a guy thought you were that cute that he wanted to get you. But that didn't happen. I think they will get married. I think these two are a definite yes. I'll put them as my most confident answer so far. Okay, let's make a yes pile and a no pile. That's yes. I'm gonna put them yes. Okay, Monica and Joey. They seem pretty good together. I just wonder if their maturity level is going to get them to marriage yet. I feel like they're both a little, and it's not their age, it's like their mindset. They're more like good buddies to me. Like, I don't know if I see like, we're going to start a life together, we're going to start building a future. It's more like, we're going to go have fun for the weekend. I think they make a cute couple. I think they could be very good friends if they could, but I don't know if I see them as like lovers. So I think I'm going to go no for them. All right, Sarah. Oh, this is a tricky one because I want them to get married. I love these two together. But again, it might come down to like, do they have the same belief systems? Is his religion going to be a little much for her? Is her liberalism going to be a little much for him? We don't quite have enough information. I feel like production, I don't know if they didn't capture everything or they're choosing to keep it more mysterious. But it just seemed like everybody got along. So I feel like all these people could get married, but I doubt that happened. So let's see, Sarah and Ben. I mean, she's on the cover of the, what do you call it? The thumbnail and everything. They seem great together. And his friends, when they went out with his friends to the brewery, they seem like people she'd be friends with. And that made me feel pretty good about them. I can't remember their parents right now. I'm going to go with a yes. I can't believe I'm going with this many yeses. And then obviously we have Dave and Lauren are a no. They did not get that far. I'm starting to wonder. Will Devin and Virginia, will they? These two seem super in love. These two seem pretty good. The only other thing is Ben's past. If there's more to that TikTok video, And if he's kind of playing Sarah, but he seems really genuine. I think they're good. Devin and Virginia. Oh boy. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Does he even need somebody with like higher energy than her too? You know what, guys? I'm switching to a no. All right. All right, so hopefully it's one episode and we'll see how we did tonight. Ooh, are they going to have a reunion? And we'll get to... Madison is kind of... She's like a little agent of chaos, which is always fun. Okay, so... This is yes. They're in love. And this is no thanks. So sorry. All right. All right, guys. Well, tell me what you think. I can't wait to finish so I can go look up if they're still together. I love watching the reunion and all that. I'll try to post this after I've finished watching so that nobody spoils